What's up, Sonic fans? This is Shaquille Oakenshield, back with part 2 of our ongoing series, Did Griffith from Berserk Read the 48 Laws of Power? Before we get into the second law, let's take a look at the scoreboard.
Griffith! Griffith!
Law 2. Never put too much trust in friends. Learn how to use enemies. Be wary of friends. They will betray you more quickly, for they are more easily aroused to envy. They also become spoiled and tyrannical. But hire a former enemy, and he will be more loyal than a friend, because he has more to prove. In fact, you have more to fear from friends than from enemies. If you have no enemies, find a way to make them. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Don Corleone. Sun Tzu. Robert Greene. To be clear, the second law of power and the famous line from Italian and Chinese men waxing poetic are not entirely synonymous. While the second law expressly warns us against the betrayal of friends, the line from the Don implicitly assumes that friends will act with our best interest at heart, so we should instead focus on enemies. There are two primary points that we can extrapolate from Greene's second law. Number 1. Assuming that friends will always act in your best interest will lead to disaster. Friends can become complacent, predictable, or even betray you when you need them the most. Number 2. Former enemies will have something to prove and will work harder to see you succeed once they are recruited as allies. Enemies are motivated by self-interest, making them less likely to take you for granted. If you can convert an enemy into an ally, you are likely to gain a powerful supporter who has learned to respect your strength and strategic vision rather than circumstance and emotion. Griffith understands and utilizes the second law to great effect throughout the Golden Age arc, using his natural ability to charm and manipulate those around him, friend and foe alike. As Roman historian Tacitus is credited with saying, "Men are more ready to repay an injury than a benefit, because gratitude is a burden and revenge a pleasure." In general terms, Griffith effectively utilizes the second law of power in his dealings with Midland's nobles. They naturally view him as an adversary and a threat, both because of his rapid ascent from a commoner and also due to his natural charisma and abilities on the battlefield. Griffith effectively manipulates his enemies in the court by using them as pawns against one another. Foss, the home minister of Midland during the Golden Age arc, and a man who is built like a Russian nesting doll, distrusts Griffith. He expresses an acute unease when Griffith is nearby, and may have a sense that something is not quite right with the White Falcon. Feeding on the insecurities and consternation kicked up in the court by Griffith's rapid ascent, Foss eggs Julius on to assassinate Griffith. Although Griffith does not stop this assassination attempt per se, the knowledge of Foss's betrayal becomes a key part of Griffith's plan to destroy his enemies from within Midland's court. Knowing that Foss is an enemy, and a devious one at that, Griffith entraps Mr. Clean by taking his daughter, Elise, hostage. By taking Foss's daughter and confronting him directly with the knowledge of his involvement in the first assassination attempt, Griffith uses Foss to orchestrate his second, false assassination attempt. Griffith manipulates and uses his former enemy, Foss, to kill the rest of his co-conspirators in a violent betrayal. Griffith leverages the second law of power perfectly to turn a powerful enemy into an even more powerful ally. Both Griffith and Foss benefit from this new partnership, and each understands that their relationship is transactional. There are no complications stemming from affection or perceived gratitude. Much like me in a Trader Joe's parking lot, Griffith trusts his enemy's self-interest and instincts of self-preservation to reinforce his position of power. At the risk of yet again outing myself as primarily interested in Berserk as a teen romance novel, let's talk about Griffith and Gennon. But first, why is my man wearing sunglasses? Can we get a ruling on this one? I'll leave it up to y'all. Anyways, Gennon meets Griffith when Griffith is at a low point. The Band of the Hawk face a difficult battle while low on supplies. In an effort to reduce casualties and secure future financing for his band of mercenaries, Griffith spends a night of passion with Gennon in exchange for financial reward. Griffith turns his enemy into a lover and a deeply infatuated ally. After becoming a governor and important benefactor of the Tudor army, Gennon runs into Griffith again at the Battle of Doldry. Griffith knows that Gennon holds power over his troops, and he uses his former enemy's infatuation against him. Gennon, blinded by love, or lust, or whatever a night with Griffith stirs up in a man, loses the battle and the castle. Gennon's actions, as predicted by Griffith, lead to his defeat. As Gennon turns on Griffith in their final moments, Griffith runs him through with the blade, goring his eyes so Gennon can never spread petty rumors. That is now twice Griffith has effectively used his enemies to pursue his goals. Huge checkmark for our theory.
At any rate, a chattering pebble is quite a nuisance, as you can imagine.
Fans of Berserk, or anyone who has watched part 1 of this series, will already likely know the answer to this one. By his own admission, Griffith does not consider anyone his true friend. This holds true until things change, thanks to our spiky-haired elf bodybuilder, Guts. Ironically, Griffith and Guts started as enemies. Griffith's men attack Guts, who kills and maims them in self-defense. What? Who kills and maims them in self-defense. Griffith comes to their aid, himself badly wounding Guts. It is through this display of power that Griffith says that Guts now belongs to him.
I wasn't about to lose a warrior of your caliber in such an insignificant battle, especially after I put so much work into acquiring you. You must fight for me, because you belong to me. I will choose the place where you will die for me.
Sometimes foreshadowing is relatively obvious.
Griffith and Guts build a friendship based on the mutual understanding that everyone else is beneath them, and they are the only ones worthy of one another's love and respect. Other members of the Band of the Hawk frequently comment on how special Guts is to Griffith, and Guts often expresses that Griffith and his dream may be the one thing he has been searching for his entire life. This friendship, this love, this vulnerability that Griffith shows for Guts opens the door for what he perceives to be the ultimate betrayal, Guts leaving the Band of the Hawk. This betrayal, or perceived betrayal, fits the second law perfectly. Guts betrays Griffith precisely at the moment when they become true friends, and no longer have the shadow of their adversarial past hanging over their heads. Guts finally defeats Griffith and challenges his unquestioned position as the leader and strongest member of the Hawks. Griffith allows Guts to feel entitled to his power, his friendship, and his freedom. Guts' loyalty wavers only through the faith in himself that he gains through the friendship and trust that Griffith puts in him. It is Griffith's transgression of the second law that causes all of the hellacious downstream events our characters must endure after Griffith's capture. One major strike against our boy. As part of the second law of power, Greene makes one exception, that for secretive, dirty, and other potentially nasty little deeds, it is often better to choose trusted friends for the job. So when the community mocks Griffith for choosing Guts for the assassination of Julius, and Oopsie Doodles killing Adonis, this is Griffith following a subset of Greene's second law of power. Never trust an enemy to take a risk on your behalf. The reasons for choosing friends over enemies in these cases are quite simple. First, a powerful person should never do their own dirty work. Griffith understands this as a military leader and someone playing the political game. Getting that shimmering white armor dirty would be a fucking disgrace. Second, a friend will be more likely to understand a difficult situation and be willing to stick his or her neck out for their master. Griffith acknowledges this by not forcing Guts to accept that task, something out of character for both Griffith and Guts.
This is an assassination. It differs thoroughly from fighting in battle. It's a dirty task, and you cannot be allowed to fail. You must not be seen, either. Because of the nature of this task, you are the only person I can trust. You have a choice.
This is not like you. You should just order me to do your bidding, without saying all that other crap.
Finally, in the worst case scenario, Greene advises that this application of the second law of power allows for a final get-out-of-jail-free card, the so-called fall of the favorite. As the public would not believe one friend would sacrifice another, the lie that, for example, Guts acted on his own without Griffith's direction would be much more believable than someone like Foss doing the same without Griffith's direct order. Again, Griffith applies the second law of power to his actions so closely that my conclusion becomes obvious. The only times he ignores the law is when he is blinded by the biceps and piercing eyes of Guts. In other words, the only times Griffith ignores this law of power are when he lets his emotions get the better of him. The cold, calculating Griffith uses his enemies and his friends effectively, adhering to the laws.